Thank you very much, Doc. I am humbled here this evening by the turnout that I see, largely of the people I know, and of course, those people who I do not know that are committed to what we have as a country back home. Brothers and sisters all, this would not have happened. The formation of a third political party that matters back home without the assistance, the endeavors, the efforts of this New York, New Jersey group. And for that, I want a big round of applause for you guys. We could have done all the work back home that could have been done, but that added edge, that enhancement of that work could have only been executed more properly and more efficiently with the assistance we got from the ilk of the Ewerts and the Docs and the Professor, Asha and Bobby and Jerry and all of you. And it is that which has sharpened us up today that the People's Progressive Party government, that government in office, has become so much scared about. The Alliance for Change, because of this effort from the New York, New Jersey chapter and that which we are doing back home. When we started this movement in 2005, we had a simple ambition. It was an ambition to transform the politics and the political culture of Guyana. I had come from the People's Progressive Party after being expelled, largely because of asking for a deletion of Marxism, Leninism, and communism from its constitution. And largely, as you know, writing in the columns of the Stabroek News that corruption was becoming rampant in the party. As Raf mentioned, we spoke. He, a very senior leader of the PNC, indicating that that is also happening inside of the PNC. Sheila Holder, also a member from the WPA, being spoken to by both of us, and then the formation of this movement. And it is not only the three of us today, but we have the Dominic Gaskins of the world. We have the Nigel Hughes, the Stephen Frasers, the Gerhard Ramsarup. And as we grow and expand, we now see today the Taran Khemraj, a professor from Florida University. We see so many others like Sace and Lyo coming on board. And I want to thank you all for making it happen and sharpening up this vehicle that will transform the country. That ambition also had largely to do with educating the population that the property rights must be in the hands of the people rather than the government. Back home, we call it transport. The government and the party loves to think that they must have transport over the people. We, in this Alliance for Change, want the people now to have transport over their government and over the party. That is fundamental. We had felt that with the coming of free and fair elections, that is democracy. That with the coming of one man, one vote in 1992, that meant that we would have reached the advanced stage. But little did we realize that notwithstanding having one man, one vote, it doesn't necessarily mean a larger happiness or a better well-being for Guyanese. We had to appreciate, and of course history as it evolves is the greatest teacher. And that history has taught us that with free and fair elections must also come good governance. And we do not have that in Guyana today. The Alliance for Change wants to see that liberal democratic tradition that you enjoy in America, in Canada, in England, that we too must enjoy there. But we have to have that people that is going to get educated as a result of the leadership of political parties like the Alliance for Change, that are going to ensure that, yes, they appreciate, and after that, they're going to vote for a party that is going to ensure that good governance flows in all institutions of that land. The Alliance for Change is that party that is going to ensure that that happens. We do not want to create a political institution that is going to simply glorify the political leaders. That was never our intention. It was largely to create institutions. Institutions that will abide by the rule of law. Institutions that are going to adhere and comply to the regulations and orders that we would have passed in Parliament. Institutions like the Parliament that are going to function with true representativeness flowing from the people and not necessarily politicians dominating the day and having their say. Because if we do not transform our institutions to be that what I'm talking about, we can go on for 30 years and more probably, and we're going to remain a country stultified, not moving forward, not advancing. And we are going to be what is called a retrograde democracy. We don't want that. And so myself, Sheila, and others, Raphael, made it quite clear that we are not doing this thing for ourselves. It was never, never self-aggrandizement. Because if that was the case, we could have remained in the political parties that we came from, and we could have been, by our silence, condoning what was wrong, and probably elevated and promoted today to be bigger boys in those parties. But that was not it. It is because we cared. It is because we saw wrong things were going on in the country. And because we live by the precept that if you see wrong things going on in your country and you remain silent about them, you are condoning them. And we did not want to see that happening. Brothers and sisters, today's activity here largely is to launch our action plan. An action plan that has set out largely how we are going to walk that walk of ensuring that we transform the political culture of Guyana. How are we going to solve the crimes? How are we going to make better entrepreneurs of our young graduates from the university and not see them migrating to greener pastures, leaving us more or less greener pastures back home? All our technical people, all our academic people, as Raf mentioned, 86% that graduate leave. We also feel, and we have it in the action plan, that we have to start creating that culture of entrepreneurialism by doing the necessary things like reduction of taxes, the infrastructural works that will be needed for that, bringing businessmen into Guyana, solving the crime situation as I mentioned earlier. But I want to tell you that though we can state all of that in very glowing, glossy paper, as we have done, we are not going to solve Guyana's problems unless we tackle the racial problem, the ethnic dilemma that we are faced with. The solving and the resolution of that racial scenario is fundamental. To that extent, then, this Alliance for Change has made it a pillar in its policy, in the action plan, that we must head-on confront that problem. It is the first political organization that has been doing so much to solve it. Because even though we might reduce taxes, even though we might create the infrastructural works that businessmen would want, better roads and all of that, energy supplies, if we do not have a satisfied people, a people largely that feels they're being marginalized and alienated and not being part and parcel of the process and participating in it, we are not going to have a country that will have that larger happiness that we strive for. Never. And to that extent, then, I want us all to be urged into believing that we can solve this ethnic dilemma we have back home. You live in a country that has Hispanics, Africans, Indians, and they merge into this great salad bowl called America, doing wondrous things with your capacities, with your intellect, with your skills. Why is it that we can't do it back home? I don't believe that goat bite we. I honestly believe that we can do it. But it will come from that individual effort. It will also come from that individual being whereby we also respect the other and not create the phobias that have caused, since the 60s, these problems that hang over our heads like the sword of Damocles. Brothers and sisters, that is fundamental. If we do not solve that, all our efforts, all the tremendous sacrifices we make back home will come to naught. And to that extent, then, I want to let you in that indeed, at the educational level, we want to allow a curriculum that is going to make the ethnicities back home want to live with each other because they can appreciate each other. And to that extent, we feel in an education system, we must teach our young people from a very young age that indeed we must respect the other and not hate that person. We have seen, because of the education system in America, how over 100 million white people could vote for a black person. We in Guyana too, East Indians, if I may say so, who have left Guyana, gone to work in Barbados, gone to work in Antigua, gone to work in so many of the islands, and they still sometimes hold on a racial perspective. But my argument is that when you leave and you go to all these countries, all those countries are governed and well governed by people of African descent. Why is it we don't appreciate that? But then we have this deep-seated phobia. That phobia, that is what is killing Guyana.